Welcome back. This is part 2 of 5 or 6 of my process of creating these horse characters for Year of the Horse. And if you're lost, there should be an introduction video in a playlist somewhere nearby. But if you don't feel like watching that, I'm going to be drawing some characters using the Astute Graphics plugins and Adobe Illustrator, and I'm excited for you to follow along. And mostly we're going to be using the plugins InkScribe and DynamicSketch in this one. So let me share my screen and we can get started on the first step, which is getting the sketch into the computer. For me, I just airdrop them from my iPad over to the computer. Point is, you need to basically have a JPEG or a PNG file that you're going to import into Illustrator. My artboard is probably a couple thousand by a couple thousand pixels. Doesn't really matter because we're using vector software. And I drop it in, and then I just double click and I set it to template, which will dim the image in its transparency as well as lock it. So now I can't grab it. You'll notice that on the side, I have a bunch of these different panels. They are mostly Astute Graphics ones if they have the color. The first step for me, just most naturally, is I'm going to create a new layer and start drawing with the InkScribe tool, not the pen tool. And I will show you some of the features that I think are really fantastic and are huge benefits over Illustrator's default pen tool. First, what I'll do for demonstration purposes is I'm just going to take maybe I'll do like a pinkish stroke just so you can see it good and pop it up to 4 pixels. That'll work, or 4 point. I tend to draw my shapes fully through whenever I'm creating them because I'm so used to using them for animation. So I always try to draw my body underneath this head. I might even draw the shoulders underneath the kind of costume just because it's helpful for me to think of things as full volumetric shapes. So some of the settings that I have here in InkScribe, so any of the panels, they also have preferences. You can go to this context menu and pop them up, and yours will look probably a bit different from mine. You can always save your settings if you want to, and yours will probably be default, which may look a little bit different. You probably will have annotations on, which can be really helpful. So if you want to take a look at this setting here, this is what I'm working with. The main points to focus on that I maybe would have changed is I got rid of a lot of the annotations just because I'm so familiar with the plugins. But it is cool because you can have these annotations kicking around like this, and you can make a grid and have all of your tools floating around with you as you are drawing. So if I have annotations checked on here, and I start drawing, I have this contextual button that can help me do all sorts of different things, like make it into a sharp line tool or contract the handles all together. It's just really like a cute little panel next to you. I turn it off because I'm so used to it, but it's a really helpful tool, especially when getting started. So again, those are the preferences. That's probably the main difference that you'll see between my screen and your screen. And if there's anything else in here, then it's going to be here. Let's get started. I've also got different keyboard shortcuts than default. I tend to shift all of my keyboard shortcuts to my left hand. That way I can be drawing with my right hand, keyboard in my left hand, and be able to navigate without having to jump all over the place to get all the different keys. I can keep them mostly on that left side of the keyboard. And all I'm doing here now is tracing. And I'm gonna remove my outline or my fill and just move things around like this. And the idea, of course, is to both freestyle a little bit because my sketch is never perfect. So I'm improvising a little bit as I go and seeing where my shapes could be a little bit stronger. And so you see I have kind of a wonky curve here, and I probably want to remove this point. But if natively I do that in Illustrator, I remove it, it's kind of like just change the shape a lot. But with InkScribe, what I can do is I can smart remove point. So while I have that tool out, I also have this Astute Buddy plugin here, which is again an Astute Graphics plugin. And what it does is it tells you when you're using a tool, you hover over certain things, I can do all these different actions to the different points, to the lines, all that stuff. And so one really handy thing is if I hold down Alt or Option and click on a point, it will remove the point, but it will keep the shape as best as it can. And it's really handy that way. So now I can remove that point. I might even be able to remove that point and have a really nice smooth arc. And I can even put another point in, and I can have it automatically line up on this horizontal tangent, which is just going to make modifying or animating the shapes later a lot easier. And I can move things around. And another nice thing that I can do with InkScribe specifically is I can just grab the path itself and move it as I need to. I don't always have to be manipulating from a point. I can just grab the path and bend it. So maybe for this, I want to move it up a little bit. I can grab the handle. You'll also notice these little snowball they're really small, but they're called ghost handles. And those are another thing that are new in this plugin. I can grab them at any point and pull them out as well if I want to round out the bottom of this. Again, for animation's sake, it can be really handy to have all of your joining shapes somewhat rounded. So those are some of the, I can do that smart remove. So now that's there and I can pull that out without having to really think about it. And I might even be able to remove that point. And now I've got a really efficient, it's only 4 points and I've got this nice shape. It's drawn all the way through. And I'll basically continue doing that through the rest. The other nice thing about the tool is that I can switch between smooth points and sharp points as I please. So I'm just clicking, hitting sharp points. But if at any point I want to click and drag, I can do that, let's say here. Click and drag, and then I can hold Alt Option and snap this point here, drag here and here. And now let's say for some reason I wanted to manipulate 2 different points. Maybe I want this point to be a smooth ear, but it's a little bit broken. So what I can do is another tool called PathScribe, which is kind of used for modifying paths. I think that's an easy way to think of it. And the cool thing is if I have PathScribe selected, you can see over here on the toolbar what I have. For me, I have it as Shift B. I can select multiple handles at the same time, manipulate them together. And so maybe I want this to be a little bit rounded here, but then grab this one, have this one go in a bit, add a little bit more motion. You can also have it automatically snap, which is really handy. And all of these things you can turn on and off here. So snapping, not snapping. If you have any points selected, maybe I want to expand the handles, then I can come here and click on this button and it will expand them automatically. That way, again, I can use PathScribe and modify them as I need to. Cool thing about this also is like, you can get weird with it and actually modify this handle and this handle at the same time. And this point probably doesn't need to be here. So I can, once again, using VectorScribe or InkScribe rather, I can just click that and remove it. And then maybe I want to move both of these handles a little bit to be a little bit closer to each other. Something like that to get that sharpness. But I don't want them too close, so I can, again, move them closer or further really easily. This shape I could totally tool out with InkScribe, but what I can also do, this one's working all right, not too bad, but I bet I could do it even faster over here with DynamicSketch. So DynamicSketch is very much like the pencil tool in Illustrator. It gives you a lot of great options here in this panel. You can have a string, which helps give a little bit more like rubber bandness to the way you're drawing. It gives like a latency so that things are smoother. So you can set that up and down. You can also change the accuracy and how smooth the shapes are that you draw. So if you have it iron it out a lot, it's going to really smooth it out. Whereas if you have it way low, it's going to give you more points and be a little bit more verbose. So again, you'll play around, but these are my settings. I keep them relatively low. So now I can just use DynamicSketch and just draw this shape on my own, something like that. And now it's a pretty good shape, but there's a couple points that are still not quite right. So let me change, I'm going to change the color of this so you can see better, maybe black. Okay. So you can see my line in here. There's a couple points that I don't love, right? I want these to be smooth. So what I might do first is just use the Smart Remove Points tool, Smart Remove Brush. As I rub over it, it will remove any points that it doesn't deem necessary in accordance to the tolerance. So I can tell it be really aggressive with removing points, but the shape might be sacrificed, or I can have it be really conservative where it might not necessarily remove the point, but it'll make sure it keeps the shape's integrity intact. You can also override that. If you hold down the Alt option, it'll ignore that tolerance and remove it anyway. And again, the nice thing is it always tries to keep, so you see I remove this one, mathematically it's gonna be impossible to keep this shape without that point, but I can still override it and do it if I want to. What I can also do is I can grab any points that are sharp and click this button to convert them to smooth points. What I can also do is just select this whole shape, go to PathScribe and say tangencies, move points to tangencies. And I can have them only go to vertical ones. So if I click that, you'll see I've got all these points at my vertical tangencies. So if I click this, you can see it's vertical, and therefore I can remove any extra points like that. Once again, I can go through, modify as I need to get this shape exactly how I want it. So I can select both of these handles, bring them in a bit, grab this one, get this handle, bring it in and modify. Obviously I'll be doing this a lot quicker in real time, but you can see it makes dealing with all of these vector points really helpful and really simple. Okay, so there's that. Let's do a couple more and then we'll get into the details in the next video. But again, it's gonna be kind of rinse and repeat here where I'm basically just going through and tracing all my shapes. So for instance, this leg, I know that the leg's actually probably coming all the way up here. So I'll draw it that way because that way it helps me modify. If I want to be the legs longer later or something, I can always move the shapes around underneath. So I think the shape goes right around here. I'm going to draw that out. You can see how quick and easy it is. Whenever I make a mistake, I can drag those handles out like this. And same here. I have that smart snapping on, which is really helpful. And this one, I drag that ghost handle. Again, these are called ghost handles. They're basically where the handles would be, even though they aren't pulled out yet. So there's that. I might want to clean this up a little bit. Maybe I just do that smart remove, maybe drop a point in on the horizontal tangent and then drag it up. Now it's nice and smooth. Grab all my points and just slide them down a little bit. And then by the end, what you'll have is all of your shapes traced. You're probably wondering where color is. That's going to come in a later step. But what I have done is I've gone through and grouped any shapes that I feel like I'm going to want to be grabbing often. So something like maybe this entire leg, I would go through and grab and just do Command G to group it, just so it's going to be easier down the line to be able to focus in on certain shapes. It's also going to make it easier for me to move shapes above and below in a layering process. Because right now they're kind of layered in the way that I've drawn them. So what I do is I go through, I group them all, and then all of these shapes, I'm just going to apply a color to. And again, I don't care what color yet, because you can see some of these shapes might be in front or in back of things that need to move. So for instance, this horse head needs to actually be above the girl's face. So what I can do is I can do Command X to cut it, and then select the shape that I want to go in front of, and do Command F to paste it in front, like that. And let's say maybe if this arm was, drawn like this, grab it, cut, and then put it wherever I want it to go. And then I kind of have this like visual heat map, or this visual sort of layering map of where everything is. In the next video, which will be number 3, how I apply a simple color palette to this illustration, as well as fine-toothing a lot of this nitty-gritty detail that is what I think is really important to my style. Things like shadows or, scuffs on the eyebrow, maybe a little bit of dirt on the character. We're going to use a lot of DynamicSketch for that. We'll also be modifying a lot of the shapes that we already have here, which will be a lot of VectorScribe as well as PathScribe and a couple other tools. So I'll see you over in the next video where we will apply color in more detail. All right, later.